So here's the thing. We're going to go ahead and cut out all the bull crap, okay? You're doing something wrong here. It's in your best interest to tell us what that is. So go ahead and do that, okay? Just be honest. It's okay, you can tell us.
I just tried to do something illegal.
Okay.
On May 21st, 2025, at a bank in Georgia, a woman was arrested for using another person's identity to attempt fraudulent withdrawals. This case raises three core legal questions.
Hey, she left ID.
I just got back from lunch, but this is the ID she presented to this gentleman. She came in week before last and did a withdrawal, and she's been to other branches.
Okay. And she's not this person.
She's not that person.
So, hold on, Teresa in. Then she sent it in.
So this is the one that we had from week before last that was sent out in our market, saying be on the lookout for her.
And so this is the person y'all do have an account, Teresa?
Correct.
Okay, and this person y'all have an account too. So right now we don't know who she is.
Correct.
Hey, now, before I go, we need to talk to you real quick, okay? Now, we need to talk to you real quick. I'm Officer Hateville Police Department. The reason why we need to talk to you is basically that we got a call stating that you was trying to make some bank transactions or cash a check, whatever you were trying to do, utilizing someone else's information, not yours, and you was trying to impersonate yourself as that person. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, then. Do you have your ID now?
No.
You don't have ID?
I just left it on the counter, I think, in there.
You left it on the counter. Why did you leave it on the counter?
It's in here.
Okay. We can get it. Hold a second. Just stay right. Let me get right. Yeah.
What's going on?
Hello.
Hi.
Tell us what's going on. What you doing here today?
Nothing.
Nothing. You're at the bank.
I was trying to make a transaction.
All right. So here's the thing. We're gonna go ahead and cut out all the bull crap, okay? You're doing something wrong here. It's in your best interest to tell us what that is. So go ahead and do that, okay? Just be honest. It's okay. You can tell us.
I just tried to do something illegal.
Okay. Well, tell us what that is, okay? And why did you do it? That's the main thing.
How?
Or why?
I'm just going through a lot of things. My son got locked up. I'm just having financial hardship right now.
Okay. Did somebody set you up to this, or was it something that you decided to do?
No, it was just something that I heard about, and I just...
Try to see.
Yes.
Okay.
Please don't.
You got your...
First, did police have the authority to detain her for questioning when the only basis was a bank employee's identification under Terry v. Ohio, 1968? The answer is yes. Terry v. Ohio established the standard of reasonable, articulable suspicion, a far lower threshold than the probable cause required for an arrest. A direct eyewitness identification combined with a matching description from dispatch easily satisfies that standard. The second question, and the more significant one, did her admission, "I just tried to do something illegal made before she was handcuffed," require a Miranda warning first. This is the most contested legal point in the entire encounter. Under Miranda v. Arizona, 1966 rights warnings are constitutionally required only when two elements exist together, custody and interrogation. Berkemer v. McCarty, 1984, clarifies further that on-scene questioning during an investigative detention does not automatically constitute custody. Because she had not yet been handcuffed or formally told she was under arrest at the moment of her admission, this remains technically a non-custodial interrogation. That statement is therefore likely admissible in court. That said, this is a frequently litigated gray area. The officer's phrasing, "we're going to cut out all the bullcrap, you're doing something wrong here," is highly accusatory. The longer and more accusatory the questioning becomes, the stronger the argument that a reasonable person would no longer feel free to leave. Had the officer continued applying that same pressure after formally announcing an arrest without first reading Miranda rights, the admissibility of any further statements would be far more vulnerable to challenge.
Your regular ID?
No.
Okay.
Come here real quick. Let me holler at you real quick. Y'all watch her.
She admitted to it.
What?
She admitted to it.
Okay, this is what the deal is. This ain't her?
Nope.
And that ain't her.
She knows that.
Okay.
She just said she did it all fraudulently because she needed some money.
Okay, cool.
I got the why. She did it because she's our kid.
What's your name?
Savannah.
Savannah?
Okay. How did you get up here?
Uber.
You Uber?
Y'all, I just been going through a lot. I just got put out of my apartment. My son is locked up. It's just a lot going on.
You know, just because you're going through something, that doesn't mean it's okay to your ID from Georgia.
Yes. I didn't take anything.
Miss Savannah, do me a favor and don't use your phone now.
Okay.
Where's your driver's license?
I didn't bring them. My real stuff.
How much money did she get on this one?
On which one?
The first one.
A lot.
What
She
was a
came
lot?
to our branch
I need to know a number.
Yeah, and who
Was it? Did it happen here in Hayville?
and some other branches.
I'm talking about no.
Branch.
How much money did she get from Hayville? That's the only one I could put a case on. And tell me, I need a date and time she came here and draw.
I think she did 8, so about 16,
Huh?
about 15.
15 what?
15,000.
15,000?
have her print all that from the last one, we'll get her for that one, this one for identity fraud, and this on
And
the
this
second
one,
Did she get any money
tried to
today?
get out 8,000, but the account is inactive.
Okay, so 15,000. We need a printout on that then.
Yeah, and we need everything printed from the transaction, the amount. Did y'all contact the account holder?
The account owner is either, if I can remember, Alabama or Florida.
Okay, if you could get us his or her information, how much money was taken out, because obviously those people would be victims and the bank itself as. Did y'all file a report that time?
No, because it wasn't discovered until she went to other branches.
Okay, okay.
This was not the person. The account owner at that point went in.
Gotcha. She got $15,000, $15,000 the last time you were here, right?
The last time.
Yeah, we got your ID from last time too, where you used your other ID when you came here. So this is the second time. She didn't get any money this time because the account was inactive, but the last time she got $15,000. People go through things, I get it. But you got a lot of victims here. You're stealing from several different people. So what do you think should happen to you?
I should get a warning.
Think so?
A warning?
Do you think so?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
I don't know what I'm doing.
You do know what you're doing. You're grown. You know exactly what you're doing. You did it twice. I'm being realistic with you. I'm being as real with you as I can. So, I mean, that's a lot of money. You can't just swipe that under the carpet like that's $15,000 you stole from somebody.
You think if somebody did that to you, they deserve a warning?
They took your money out of
Second
your.
chance.
If they
depending
look,
on if they had things going on,
they took money out of your account and
and
you
like
used.
to pay it back to that person or something.
That's not how that works. You can't pay that $15,000 back. That's why you're here. You used somebody else's ID and stole their money. So that's two things. It's a big deal. This ruins people's lives, not just yours, but if you come in and take money out of my account and pretend like you're me, you're ruining my credit. You're taking money out of my kid's mouth. Other ways to do stuff. I've been broke before and came up, and I didn't go steal nothing. So you gave them your real ID? No, I'm talking about the officers.
I don't have.
No, did you give your officers your real information? I'm
Yes,
sorry. Okay.
yes, my real name. Yes,
Okay.
yes, my real name. Yes.
It came back. You ever been arrested before?
When I was younger,
What for?
my husband and I got into a fight, and I hit him in front of the police.
Like a domestic or something?
Yeah, they charged me, I think, with aggravated assault for hitting him in front of the police. That was like,
Did you hit him with something?
no, my hand.
How long ago?
Like 2009 or something. Way back. It might not even been in the 2000s.
What's your son arrested for?
He shot himself walking down the street or something in Clayton County. And I guess they have cameras or something and they saw it. He got picked up for a warrant, so when they saw that, they transferred him to Clayton County.
If I could.
What information do you need from the ones that you need here?
Yeah,
The name and number of the customer, the true customer?
that's it. And the amount and the date that she did it.
Got it, okay.
Okay, the only ones I need for is hate bill.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Appreciate you now.
No, she said she Ubered here.
I was just saying that she had car keys, Cause I don't trust her, man. I don't even think who that name she gave us is her, man. I think we need to rapid ID.
Is that supposed to be her?
No, these are not her.
Okay, so I guess the last time she came in here, did she give her real ID?
No, that's the
That's
ID.
what she gave
Let me see
us?
what she do, man.
And the customer, the true customer went into a branch, whatever state they're in, and said that money is being coming out. And that's how we.
So here's the thing. She got her picture on these IDs. These are not her name. This is not her
Right.
name. This is a different name with her picture on it.
Yeah.
So some kind of way she's giving us our customers' account information.
Yeah.
So her name is Sawana. She swears that's her real stuff. I mean, whether it is or not, we'll find out.
Yeah, because like I said, these are convincing.
Usually what happens is these people find a homeless person on the side of Cleveland Ave and say, let me take your picture. I'll
There
be
you go.
back in tomorrow. I'll give you $100 if
Yeah.
you go in and cash this check. And they come back with a fake ID with the picture on it. We just had a guy, last week or the week before at Delta Community do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
But she got 15 grand last time?
Yeah. This one here, on this one here, showing transaction on 8,000.
So she tried to get 8 this time. The last time she was here, she got 15.
That's what
She actually got it. Walsh says this is the second time.
That's what I'm saying, dude. She did 2 transactions on the same day for 8,000.
Today or the last time?
No, the last time.
The last time.
And she got both of them.
Which
right?
one? On this one here. Okay, she got 16,000.
Yeah, she got a total of 16 from us.
Cause when we, check this out. When we run this ID, these numbers come back to somebody else.
Okay. The one at Delta, it was an older black guy, came back to an old white guy.
Yeah, so I told her to print whole. And you said today she tried to get another 8,000.
Another 8,000. So this is the 8 that she tried to get, but the account is inactive, meaning there hasn't been any activity.
So right now I got 2 charges of identity theft, and then the other one's gonna be 2 charges of fraud.
The third legal question were the charges applied correctly. Under Georgia law, 2 separate statutes are invoked here, and they do not overlap. OCGA. Section 16-9-121 identity fraud makes it a felony to use another person's identifying information without authorization with intent to deceive or defraud. This forms the basis for the 2 identity fraud counts. OCGA. Section 16-9-31 financial transaction card fraud criminalizes using another person's card or account information to obtain money without consent. This forms the basis for the 3 remaining counts, each tied to a specific transaction described by bank staff. Because the 2 statutes protect distinct legal interests, personal identity and financial property, prosecuting both sets of charges simultaneously does not violate double jeopardy principles.
All right, now, what I need from you before I go, I just need a recorded statement on what happened today.
Okay,
If you can just tell me what happened, what occurred today.
sure. She came in, presented a different ID, asking for $8,000 out of the inactive account. Baker pretty much stalled because we recognized her before when she came in, so he kind of stalled, and that's when we called you all to have her arrested.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Well, hey, thank you for your statement. Any further things you need from us, you can reach out to us.
Do you need that cane to walk?
Yes.
All right, well, you get your purse from me, okay? You got anything else on it that's gonna stick harm us or poke us or anything? You're gonna be under arrest for this, okay? The bank wants to prosecute, the person wants to prosecute. We're gonna make it as easy for you as possible, okay?
All right.
We're gonna walk you to the car, we're gonna handcuff you when you get to the car, okay?
All right.
Finally was the warrantless arrest legally sound under OCGA. Section 17-4-20 officers may make a warrantless arrest when there is probable cause to believe a felony has occurred. Here, 3 independent layers of evidence converged: the witness identification, the subject's voluntary admission, and physical evidence, a withdrawal slip, and 2 bank cards in another person's name found in her purse. The probable cause for this arrest is exceptionally solid, leaving almost no room for challenge. One procedural detail worth noting: the officer modified the handcuffing method, cuffing in front rather than behind the back, after confirming a documented shoulder injury. This is a real-world example of the use of force continuum. Force should match actual risk, not default to a maximum standard. Most department use of force policies require officers to account for a subject's known medical condition when applying restraints, so long as doing so doesn't compromise officer safety. Now, the grading. The responding officer, a B+. Strengths: cross-verifying with bank staff before detaining the subject, building a clear evidentiary chain, adjusting the handcuffing method for a known injury, and using no unnecessary force. Weakness: the highly accusatory interrogation language carries legal risk if applied in a closer case, where the line of functional custody is far thinner. The subject, a D-. The dominant negative: a direct specific confession made without counsel, present severely undermining any future defense. According to bank staff, this was a repeat offense using a different stolen identity, eliminating any isolated incident framing. Her one positive: no resistance, no escalation, full cooperation throughout the arrest, a factor that doesn't change the charges but may favorably affect how the case proceeds. The key takeaways. For the public, anything said before being handcuffed can still be used as valid evidence in court. Not being formally arrested yet does not mean your words carry no legal weight. The right to remain silent can be exercised at any time, even before it's read to you. For law enforcement, building a foundation before acting corroborating with witnesses securing physical evidence is what makes an arrest withstand legal challenge far more reliably than relying on a single confession alone. And a broader principle for cases like this, the line between on-scene questioning and custodial interrogation, is rarely clear-cut, and that ambiguity is usually where real cases are won or lost. Let us know in the comments if there's a legal interaction or topic you'd like us to break down next. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our second channel, Street Law, for more police interaction and courtroom content.